In a lot of ways, Rogue One, A Star Wars Story is the exact antithesis of what George Lucas was trying to do with his Star Wars prequels. While George Lucas's prequels were packed with new ideas, new characters, and new ways to look at old characters, Rogue One opted to recycle old characters with new names, create environments that were mostly redundant to old environments, and basically just recycled the tone of the old Star Wars films wholesale without adding anything new to speak of, and making our leads boring-ass characters with no chemistry. While we do have some new trooper classes for the Stormtroopers that look admittedly pretty cool, they're still just that, Stormtroopers. And while the new Death Troopers look menacing, the only real difference between them and the other troopers are their new shiny black armor. Hell, this movie even created parts for actors that are either A, too old to play their younger selves, see Uncanny Valley Leia, or B, actors who are dead, see Uncanny Valley Tarkin. Were these additions necessary? I would argue not. Leia seems to only be there for fan service, and Tarkin's role is more or less filled by director Krennic, so you may ask yourself why. Why add these moments? Well, that's simple, fan service. And this movie likes to shoehorn in lots of fan service. This film feels pretty unnecessary as well, following the tale of how the Death Star plans were stolen, leading directly into the plot of Star Wars, or A New Hope as we call it today.
The Death Star plans are not in the main computer.
Where are those transmissions you intercepted? What have you done with those plans?
Intercept is as defined by dictionary.com to obstruct someone or something so as to prevent them from continuing to a destination.
Was this really necessary to see? I don't think so. The other major hurdle Disney faced was having to get rid of these characters so they all fucking die by the end. I don't think that's a spoiler at this point, and while this may have been a satisfying conclusion to the story, it doesn't really pan out because, let's be honest here, there's very little character to be found in these characters. I don't for a moment care about them. They're all kind of just archetypes, or recycled less good versions of old characters, so in my eyes, it's fair to say that this film sucks, as it were. I think my description of this film in my first terrible attempt at a Why It Sucks episode where I reviewed this film stated it best. This film desperately wants to be Star Wars Part 1, how the less cool shit happened so Disney could squeeze more money out of Star Wars. It's pretty true, and I'll be pulling that thesis over into this review, because even on my 5th or 6th viewing of this film, my core opinion on it hasn't really changed. Alright then, without further ado, the plot. Okay, so the plot of this film goes as follows. Jyn Erso is orphaned after her mother is killed and her father is kidnapped in order to finish the Death Star. Anyhow, the rebels want help from Saw Gerrera so they can find Jyn's dad, so they send Jyn, Cassian, and K2SO to talk with Saw and figure out where Galen is so that they can kill him. This is unbeknownst to Jyn. Anyhow, they get to a planet and they meet Chirrut and Baze, and they end up in this little fight on space Afghanistan. Then they're captured by Saw. They talk to Saw, who shows Jyn a transmission from her father, who says that he made a flaw in the Death Star. Anyhow, space Afghanistan gets nuked, and the crew flies off, with Saw sacrificing himself, I guess, just for shits and giggles?
You must go.
Come with us.
I will run no longer.
He explains that he doesn't want to run anymore, but he seems eager to fight at every other point up to this, so I guess the writers were just lazy and didn't know how to keep him in the movie. A tragic death of a character we barely knew.
What did she say?
What you say? That you only meant well, cause you did. What you say?
Jason Derulo.
That it's all for the best, cause it is.
I was so wrong for so long, only trying to please myself. Girl.
But whatever, fuck it. They fly off to this rain planet where they find Galen, but Phil and Krennic beat them to the planet. Anyhow, the rebel fleet shows up and starts carpet bombing the place like America carpet bombs the Middle East, and Galen ends up dying.
I know I should have treated you better, but me and you were meant to last forever.
This tragic moment causes Jyn, an amazingly emotionless individual, to magically have a 180 turnaround of her character to where now she wants to sacrifice herself for the rebellion, even though just 15 minutes earlier she told Saw,
They wanted an introduction, they've got it. I'm out now. The rest of you can do what you want.
They fly back to the rebels and tell them they need to go to Scarif so they can steal the Death Star plans, but the rebels don't want to, so they end up going with like 5 people who are like, hey, we can come. Anyway, they go to Space Dubai, where they simply steal disguises and easily make their way in and steal the plans, then they fly off and the movie's over. The end is pretty anticlimactic, but, oh, oh, that's just how it should have happened. What actually happens is Jin, Cassian, and K2SO get in disguise, and then for no reason, the other rebels start blowing shit up, which leads to a big war where everyone dies. But they manage to steal the plans and broadcast them to the rebels, who manage to download them onto a single floppy disk. But oh no, Vader comes and kills everyone. But the rebels manage to get the plans to Leia, and the film ends exactly where New Hope starts. Fantastic. Every character is boring in this film. There's not a single character, new or old, that's even remotely good. Prove me wrong. Jyn Erso is a boring character who, much like every other female in the Star Wars universe, is a 5'3" pale white brunette girl. Boy, what an expansive galaxy. Good thing we have such fantastic creatives behind this franchise.
And now Felicity coming into Rogue One is just fantastic. She's such a brilliant actress, and she brings a sense of gravitas and importance to anything that she does, and yet she, there's a real whimsy to her too. She has a great smile, a wonderful sense of humor, and she's been fantastic.
She basically just sits there making stupid faces and looking confused the whole time. She goes through an arc in this film, and by arc I mean she despises the rebels till her dad dies, then one confused looking face later she wants to literally go on a suicide mission for them. Except it wasn't a fucking suicide mission until the rebels blew a bunch of random shit up for no reason, but we'll come back to that. Cassian is a guy who was doing bad things for the rebels, like when he kills one guy, but then he magically becomes not a bad guy, we are told at least. This was their Han Solo, who isn't actually Han Solo, and that's fair. He's morally ambiguous. I mean, he shot this guy first. Except here's the thing, besides this single moment, he never does anything morally ambiguous. He chooses not to shoot Galen, which is out of character and a major gamble, considering that they don't know if the Death Star is completed yet or not, but whatever. But we can't really know for sure if this is actually out of character for him, when this characteristic we haven't really seen in the film besides that one time, but even then, we get very little context onto what happened before he ends up shooting the man. Anyhow, he wins the second most boring character award, just losing out to Jyn. K2SO is an obnoxious, mentally challenged robot who's sarcastic and quippy, but doesn't understand human customs, so he can't decipher sarcasm and calculates the odds of survival constantly, even when they're in danger of death. This is the most unique sci-fi robot I've ever seen. I'm just blowing your balls. This is the most stereotypical robot character there is. The only thing that sets him apart is that he's as annoying as Jar Jar Binks and as autistic as Billy the Blue Ranger or Sheldon Cooper. Chirrut is either Ip Man or a sponsor for the Chinese Communist Party. Actually, fuck it, he's most likely both. Baze is a guy who can magically shoot every stormtrooper up to like 30 at a time at machine gun pace with perfect accuracy, never missing a single shot, unless of course it is plot convenient for the crew to get overwhelmed where he can't hit anyone and dies pretty quickly. Damn, if only they didn't start this war in space Dubai, just to make a cool action scene and actually thought logically about the plot. Darth Vader shows up because Darth Vader's cool, and I guess our main villain Krennic doesn't look like a bitch enough without Vader and Tarkin constantly yelling at him throughout the whole thing. Director Krennic is the new big bad guy this film, and he's just Grand Moff Tarkin, but kind of a bitch. Speaking of Grand Moff Tarkin, Disney strung up legendary film and television actor Peter Cushing and made him dance like a dead monkey so Disney could have a cameo that made fat neckbeards stand out of their rascal scooters and start to clap. He looks creepy, and he's only out here for fan service and fan service alone. Disney's idea of respect for the dead is making Peter Cushing look like a character out of the Polar Express or Beowulf. Look, I don't know if I should comment on the morals of forcing a dead man into your crappy cash grab anal leakage of a film. I'm not, and I don't know exactly what he'd want. But the fact that they took a dead man's facial likeness and put it to screen makes me weirded the fuck out, especially since the odd CGI wasn't there yet. And that forces the CGI character to fall all the way down the uncanny valley. At least I can kind of tell who this is supposed to be though. What they did to Carrie Fisher's likeness is even weirder. She looks nothing like Carrie, and the fact that Carrie was so young in the part makes this version of her look like a creepy face scan doll. It sort of reminds me of Alita Battle Angel, but at least that was stylistic. It's worth noting that Carrie was still alive when this likeness appeared in the film, so I will at least give them the she signed off personally credit, while that's something I can't say about Tarkin. Brandon Smart of the Odyssey website called Rogue One the Saving Private Ryan of Star Wars. In case you're unaware, Saving Private Ryan is a film about the Battle of Normandy or D-Day, a historical event during World War II where around 40,000 people died. The Steven Spielberg film Saving Private Ryan was a gripping biography showing war in a less than glorious way, with people being ripped apart, dying horribly, and showing the utter horrors of war. Rogue One is a Star Wars film where the heroes run and gun with perfect accuracy, mowing down everyone in their path until the plot hits 2 hours and Disney told them to start killing off the characters characters so they can wrap it up and send it out to the mouth-drooling audience. This is an article title that has stuck out to me for years because it proves just how smooth-brained a lot of Star Wars' audience truly is. This film is not realistic. The characters in this film don't act realistic. None of them are realistically fazed by war, and the run-and-gun antics lead to no true danger until the plot says, alright, now we need to kill these guys, so we don't have to explain away how these guys weren't in the original trilogy. The deaths are not sad in this film. Most of them are very dumb. The deaths are not realistic in this film. They rarely have a good payoff. And look, this is sci-fi. What should I expect? Run and gun action is just part of the game. Well, all I really expect is some payoff, and Garth Edwards didn't know how to pay off any arcs in this film except they die. This plays back to what I said earlier about the characters being boring because none of them have arcs except ones that happened for no reason. The only death that was remotely impactful was K2SO's, and I fucking hate that character. Anyways, moving on. Obviously Disney knows, with fan service comes dollars. Honestly, this whole film felt like showing us shit we've already seen before first, and actual movie with a plot second. We have TIE Fighters, X-Wings, AT-ATs, Darth Vader, Grand Moff Tarkin, Moff Mothma, Bail Organa, the Death Star blowing shit up, sand planets. These two guys who Obi-Wan dices up were on space Afghanistan minutes before it was nuked, to then immediately fly off to Tatooine, a virtually identical planet, so they can conveniently cross paths with Obi-Wan and get sliced up like a piece of deli meat at a Jewish market. C-3PO and R2 were there for some reason as well, and they got archive footage of X-Wing pilots from A New Hope, which was fine I guess, but set kind of a bad precedent for Episode 9, where using archival footage would become a means for corpse puppeteering. However, we will get back to that when I get to the Episode 9 review. The few things in this film that were new were actually kind of neat, I'll give them that much. I enjoyed the new trooper classes, even though they didn't have much to offer other than look cool and are magically stronger because the movie said so. And Scarif, or Space Dubai as I lovingly call it, was actually visually very nice. The CGI was also quite good. While I know money will buy good CGI, I also can't take anything away from the likely thousands of artists that tried very hard for this film, and it looks pretty nice as a result. This film is fucking boring. I know I say stuff like that a lot, but hear me out. Nothing happens throughout the first 3/4 of this film's runtime, and these characters are boring. Cassian just sits there, Booty just sits there, Jin just sits there staring at the camera like a deer staring at my headlights as I barrel into it at 80 miles per hour because I drank a few more beers than I should have and mistook my gas for my brakes. Explain to me why the rebels ambushed the forces on Scarif if they were outnumbered 1,000 to 1. I mean, think about it. Jin, Cassian, K2SO got inside undetected. The only reason this battle needed to be in the film is because fights are cool. You would think they could covertly stole the plans. This would have saved the lives of everyone, and we would have had extra time to develop the characters while they were on this heist, rather than just an extra half hour of shooting shit. It is the most glaring plot inconsistency. Plus, the Empire didn't know they were coming. Once the disguises were stolen, just go in and steal the plans, hop back in the ship, and pull out. The ship even had clearance codes. I suppose if the Empire didn't know about the Death Star's plans being taken, then how could Vader attack the Tanavite V? But it's not A New Hope's job to explain Rogue One, it's Rogue One's job to explain Rogue One. I guess these characters needed to die to explain away their absence from the subsequent Star Wars films like 4, 5, and 6, I guess? But this is just beyond stupid. Honestly, this ruins the final fight for me, since they couldn't even be asked to make a reason for the fight to actually happen, like being discovered or something. It makes the main characters look both incredibly boring and now also incredibly stupid. It's easy to talk a lot of shit about the Star Wars prequels for often being nonsensical and making little sense, but the last 40 minutes of this film also makes no sense. I'm just putting that out there. I mean, come the fuck on. They were literally inside the base, in disguise, near the plans, but because of the fighting overhead, Jin got stuck and they closed the shield gates. Literally, this is one of the stupidest things to ever happen in a Star Wars film. This fucking movie has an 84% on Rotten Tomatoes. I mean, come the fuck on. How dumb are critics? Now look, I'm rarely ever gonna say mainstream critics are dumb dick riders that ride Disney's cock like 18-year-olds in a porn film. But what I am saying is, you lose a lot of money not being invited to Disney premieres as a film critic. It isn't fair to say Disney pays off critics. I doubt that's true, and I have no proof to say that. But they definitely strong-arm critics through the benefits they give being Disney, the biggest film production company in the world. And fuck, it's hard to even blame Disney when we know all these mouth-drilling idiot critics who don't care about logic and good storytelling when Darth Vader's fancy glow stick is blaring in their face while they sit there at an 8K film screen with Dolby surround sound cinema gulping gallons of fucking soda out of their R2-D2 limited edition popcorn soda dispenser combinations, consuming tens of thousands of calories through their 80 84-ounce cups with unlimited refills they get from their local movie theaters' dirty, uncleaned concession stands, slurping down the liquid elixir of high fructose corn syrup, not even bothering to pay attention to the film blasting in front of them at 6,000 decibels, because they're already speculating on the next 10 years of cash grab crap this franchise is going to shit out, and this painful cycle will continue until congestive heart failure finally ends their sad existence. A Star Wars podcast without a host, a Marvel Studios speculation clickbait channel abandoned, but not without hope, because there's a new set of clogged arteries ready to take their place at the warm and dented Star Wars gamer chair, surrounded by Jyn Erso and Kid Anakin Funko Pops, with the musty smell of dirty, unshowered individuals ready to make Disney its next $1 billion, eating up this Chinese Communist Party propaganda that Disney squirts out of its dirty brothel of filmmaking. Anyways, I didn't really care for Rogue One very much, but did you see that new episode of The Mandalorian where Baby Yoda ate the eggs out of that uteropod? That was kind of funny. I just pre-ordered the life-size Baby Yoda feel and squeeze toy with realistic feeling skin, perfect for playing, displaying, and fucking.